Hey guys, it's Aerance. In honor of Pokemon Day, I wanted to do a unique video, something beyond the realm of things that I normally do, and that is my top favorite Pokemon of each type. So if you're a part of my Discord and you checked out the Pokemon tab recently, you might have seen this image that everybody was sharing, which is their top favorite Pokemon of every type. And I thought this would be a really cool video to do in honor of Pokemon Day. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. I'm starting this and I'm doing this and I'm not going to go in any particular order. This is just going to be whatever type. I will save my favorite types for the end. So jumping right into it, we're going to start with normal. So the normal typing is not a type that I really care for all that much. So this one was like kind of an easy choice, but then also kind of a hard choice because I don't really have that many that I care for in the normal typing anyway. And the winner of the normal typing is Chatot. Yeah, Chatot's pretty cute parrot-like Pokemon. I used to like that it used your microphone features in the NDS games, and it's the only normal type Pokemon that I can think of putting on this list. Next up is water. Again, another typing that I don't really use. I'm not like a huge water Pokemon fan. There's not that many that I really care for. But if I had to pick one, and this was kind of a hard decision because there were a few that I actually do kind of like, but this one has been my favorite pretty much since the second generation, and that would have to be Kingdra. I just like the overall design of this Pokemon. I think the whole water dragon kind of thing is really interesting. Kind of reminds you of like the Loch Ness Monster kind of a deal, which is why I could have picked Lapras, but Kingdra just has more of a sleek design. Next up on the list is Rock. This is another type that I don't really use, and I was surprised to find that out when I was scrolling through all the Pokemon that I could have chosen. And the Pokemon that I ended up sticking with, sheerly for the fact that it was one of my favorite dinosaurs growing up, is Aurorus. I think that this design is nice. I'm not a huge fan of Aurorus's shiny form, but the original design itself has always kind of attracted me. And again, I'm not a huge rock Pokemon fan, so this is the best you're gonna get out of me. Next up is bug typing. I do not use bugs. They're not at all, they're just not a thing in my vocabulary. There's maybe like 2 or 3 bug Pokemon that are kind of okay, but this one really takes the cake because it's the only bug Pokemon that I could find, well, and it's pre-evolution, that I really care for, and that would be Volcarona. Larvesta and Volcarona are really interesting to me because they're kind of enigmatic, and it's like they're legendaries, but they're kind of not legendaries, and it's just like this weird thing, and their designs have always been really interesting to me because, yeah, they're bugs, and I'm not a huge bug fan, but like the way that they do it is really interesting. Like the fact that Volcarona looks kind of like a flower and a bug at the same time is amazing, and it's a fire bug type. That's really cool because fire typing is like one of my favorites. And it's such an interesting mix too because bugs are normally susceptible to fire, so it's like kind of a cool way to, Next up is fighting. Again, not a huge fan of fighting Pokemon. I really have been. Up until about Generation 8 when a Pokemon was recently introduced that I think the design is really witty and fitting, and that would be Sirfetch'd. Not only does Sirfetch'd have an attractive model, but also its shiny variant is freaking amazing. You guys know from my shiny video of me catching Marjorie that I am obsessed with the idea of him being kind of like a buttered colored duck. So we'll get this next one out of the way because again, I'm not like a huge fan of this typing. It's a cool typing, but there's just not a lot of designs in this Pokemon category that I'm like a huge fan of, and that would be Steel. And again, Steel Pokemon were interesting when they were introduced in the second generation, but they didn't really add a whole lot of good ones until Generation 4. And that leads me to my favorite Steel type, which is Dialga. Dialga, as you can see from behind me, I've got a couple figures of him kind of hanging out. He's definitely one of my favorite Pokemon designs overall. His shiny's not that great, as you know. I'm not a huge like teal or off bluish green colors kind of fan, and I also don't like pastels, so anything that's not like a full-on color is not that great, and it's kind of like, his shiny is kind of like a faded, I'd still rock it. Like, look, I got this shiny Dialga, but it's not one of my favorite shinies, for sure. Next up is Ice. I use some Ice Pokemon. Ice Pokemon tend to give you quite a great advantage because not a lot of people use Ice Pokemon, but I'm not like a huge fan of the type itself. And if I had to pick a favorite Ice Pokemon, it would be Kyurem. Kyurem is a really interesting design. I do like the dragon type Pokemon, and Kyurem has this like kind of ancient, like it's almost kind of copied and pasted together, glued together with like, you know, Elmer's glue. It's got this really clunky design that just for some reason is just very sleek and attractive at the same time, and I don't even know how that's even possible. But yeah, that's my favorite Ice Pokemon. Next up is another type that I don't really use, though I do use it a lot more often than the types that I was just talking of, and that would be the Poison type. And there's not a whole lot of Pokemon that I really like in this type, but one that I've grown to like recently is Toxtricity, and I really like the low-key form. I think the low-key form is the more attractive model of the two, or concept, I guess. And the shiny's amazing. As you know, I have this this Pokemon in particular in its shiny format, in the form of my Pokemon Woodstock. So I really do like that one. Next up is Grass. I don't really use Grass that often, again, but I do have quite a bit of favorite Grass Pokemon, and this one was really, really hard. But if I had to pick one, it's a Pokemon that's been with me since it came out, and that would be Shaman. There's like 3 behind me. There's Sky form, and then there's the 2 original forms. I just love Shaman because he's kind of like a little mole, kind of like a porcupine, but a lot of people don't know this. Shaman was actually inspired, like his design is inspired by Chia Pets, which is crazy. I've never liked Chia Pets, but it works for Shaman. Next up is Dark. There's quite a bit of Dark Pokemon that are really cool, but this one has to be my favorite Dark Pokemon just because I've always loved his design, and that's Absol. Absol is incredible, and his Mega Evolution is even cooler, somehow. Alright, now this is where we start getting into my favorite typings. So we're gonna get this one out of the way, but that would be the Psychic typing. And my favorite Psychic Pokemon, as you all should know, because it is my favorite mythical Pokemon of all time, and it was one of my first original favorite Pokemon from Generation 1, and that's Mew. I'm not a huge Mewtwo fan, never really, I mean, Mewtwo's cool, everybody loves Mewtwo, everybody wanted a Mewtwo, but when the Pokemon movie came out and we got our first glimpse at Mew, I was on the Mew train. Mew is adorable, it's a cat, which you guys know I'm obsessed with cats. He's just great design, great original mythical Pokemon. The fact that he was hidden in the coding of the first game and only one person even knew about it is amazing. We'll go from Psychic to Electric, and you guys already know where I'm going with this because I've talked about this Pokemon. And what's even cooler is he goes from being an electric ghost, and as you guys know, I love ghost Pokemon. So, of course, Rotom had to stand in the electric category. And realistically, there's enough dual-type ghosts that I could choose a ghost for almost every type, but not every ghost Pokemon is my favorite. Like, I definitely could have chosen Ghastly for the ghost and poison, or I could have chosen it for the poison one, but I'm not a huge Ghastly fan. Sounds crazy, because he's the original ghost Pokemon. Don't really care for him. Let me take that back. I do care for him. I appreciate him. I've just never built a ghost party with him in mind. Next up is Ground, and the reason why this is higher up on the list is because I love this Pokemon so much. Its shiny form is amazing. Not a huge Ground fan, don't really use Ground Pokemon, but this Pokemon makes it higher up on the list because it changes your mind about ghost Pokemon. I mean Ground Pokemon. Now you see why it's higher up on the list. So this Pokemon is Palisand, or Sandygast. The black shiny is sexy. I love this Pokemon. Always loved this Pokemon ever since Alola came out. I thought it was the coolest idea. A haunted sandcastle. Sick. There are some stupid ideas that the Pokemon Company throws out in the form of Pokemon. Don't really care for Klefki. Don't really care for the Lay Pokemon that's like the Band of Flowers, Comfy. But this one, oh yeah. Next up on the list is Fire. I love Fire Pokemon. I probably have more Fire Pokemon than any other Pokemon type. And I would have saved this one for last, but it's not my overall favorite Pokemon. so I'm just gonna get it out of the way now. And you guys know I'm currently still trying to hunt this Pokemon in Crystal, and that is Cyndaquil. Bad Boy Cyndaquil is still my favorite starter, always will be, doesn't matter what Pokemon come out. I've always loved Cyndaquil, and played my original playthrough of Gold with a shiny, and didn't even know it until Gen 3, the end of Gen 3, beginning of Gen 4, when I was like, wait a second, and then turned my game back on and was like, what? Yeah, I love Cyndaquil. Always partner Pokemon till the day I die. So we're in our last 4, and this was really difficult for me because a lot of these are dual types, so I kind of put them in a specific order to allow myself to have them on the list to begin with, so I really had to think about how I wanted to do this. And when I explain it, you'll kind of get the thought process, and I'll explain it after I unveil them. Before I get into the top 4, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button below, ring that bell for notifications, go ahead and like this video if you want more videos like this from me, and comment below and let me know what your favorite Pokemon are of each type, or if you were shocked by some of my decisions. So the next one on the list is Fairy type, and that is Xerneas. Xerneas is one of my favorite Pokemon, always has been. My family sigil is a stag, so having a stag legendary Pokemon that is also a box legendary with a sexy white shiny is incredible. He had to make this list. I've always thought that this Pokemon design was very noble and majestic and all around perfect. Next up is Dragon. And Dragon typing is one of my favorites, and this was one of the hardest decisions that I've ever had to make. And it's a recent Pokemon, which is so surprising, but again, it grew on me, and that's Dragapult. The entire Dragapult line is a beautiful, beautiful design. Combining one of my favorite Pokemon types with my all-time favorite Pokemon type, which is Ghost, is amazing. A Ghost Dragon? That's incredible. And I love everything about this Pokemon. The fact that it shoots its young at its enemies is just so terrible and vile, but so fascinating. That's the reason why I had to take this slot. Second to last on the list is Ghost, and you'll know why after I tell you this. My favorite Ghost Pokemon, and this is marginal because I have so many favorites, but this is definitely top 3, and that would be Mimikyu. The lore of Mimikyu, how dark and sinister it is, and its shiny variant. I mean, for God's sake, I have a plushie shiny Mimikyu. I made one, too. I also freaking made one by hand. Let's see if I can get it without knocking everything in my studio over. I made this out of socks. Great Pokemon. Takes the mascot Pokemon, which I love. I've always been a huge Pikachu fan, and turns it into something sinister. Good going, Pokemon Company. Somebody wanted to say hi. Arnold Break! Look at this little man. Oh, those lights are too bright for him, huh? They hurt his eyes. He's a nocturnal creature. Oh my god, he got cat hair all over me. Anyway, without further ado, my top favorite flying type Pokemon, and overall favorite Pokemon, is Drifloon. Duh. I was gonna wear the shirt, but I thought that would give it away to people who don't know my channel, so I didn't decide to wear it today. I love Drifloon. His shiny is extremely opposite of what he is, and is like this almost neon-y yellow and like this sky blue, and it's just a perfect, brilliant design. And not only that, but he has like one of the most terrifying backstories out of any Pokemon. He basically drags children off into the underworld. And if you want to know more about that, check out my top 5 creepiest Pokedex entries in honor of Halloween about 1.5 years ago. And I'll go over everything that has to do with this Pokemon. And I won't tell you exactly where he is on that list either. But, yeah, the reason why he's my top flying Pokemon is because I wanted somehow to include all of the Ghost Pokemon that I'm most fond of on this list. And unfortunately, if I wanted to include Xerneas, which is my top favorite Fairy-type Pokemon, I wouldn't be able to put Mimikyu into this list at all, because Drifloon would have taken that slot. So, Mimikyu is favorite Ghost, Xerneas is favorite Fairy, and Drifloon is my favorite flying. So that's the reason why I kind of manipulated it all in that sense. But Drifloon is my favorite ghost Pokemon, but then I'd have to tie Mimikyu and Xerneas, and I wanted them both to be included. And if I had to pick a favorite flying Pokemon, what Pokemon do you think I would have picked? With all that being said, this video ended up way longer than I wanted it to, and originally in the script that I wrote for it, I had it to where I explained a really cool fact about each Pokemon that people might not know. I had to cut it. Obviously, I included a few, but yeah. So, thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys next time.